Welcome to Momming as a Millennial, the podcast where we explore the intersection of tradition and modern parenting. Have you ever felt overwhelmed trying to balance being a mom with your professional aspirations, all while dealing with side-eye from your parents who think you're doing it wrong? Me too. I'm your host, Christine Gerizzo, a journalist, blogger, and proud mama of 2 young children. I'm so glad you're here with me. Together, we can navigate the complexities of millennial motherhood and find what resonates with our true, authentic selves. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of Momming as a Millennial. I recently was able to take part in a 24-hour podcast put on by Emerge Media Creators, and they went all night long. I had my live spot from 10 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., and it was really a lot of fun getting to connect with the other podcasters. Emerge Media Creators is actually where I go to record my video. I started my podcast in April of 2024, but I started producing at Emerge in July of 2024. And I really feel like that kind of took the podcast to the next level because it brought me something that I was previously missing, which was the video component. I typically go there, I'll record, bring whatever guests I have, and then they provide me with the audio and video files. And then I go ahead and take the audio and edit it however I need to. And I'll put my intro and outro on it. And then I release that to all the podcast players like Spotify and Apple. And then I have the video that I can splice up and edit and share however I would like with the reels and the stories on my Instagram, Contemplative Mama 1. And I really feel like that has helped me to reach a larger number of people because now you can see the reels on Instagram and maybe you wouldn't have found my podcast otherwise. So being able to take part in this 24-hour podcast-a-thon was a great way to give back to, this group of creators who has, I think, really come together the past 2 years and helped me become a better podcaster and grow my audience. And of course, they're doing the same. So when I started to think about what I was going to share during that 24-hour podcast-a-thon, because it was going to be an audience that maybe didn't know me or have ever heard of momming as a millennial. So I kind of wanted to take a step back and I started to reflect on why I started this podcast at all. I think when I started to have kids, I was overwhelmed with all of the parenting information and advice that was coming from all areas. Parents, my husband's parents, grandparents, social media, the internet, news sources. I mean, you name it. We were getting bombarded with information. And I thought, I can't be the only one who constantly feels judged and insecure about every decision that I'm making as a new parent. And I really wanted to create a safe space where we can discuss the challenges that I feel are very unique to millennial parents and share that experience of parenthood and support one another. Rather than tearing each other down, I really wanted to create a space where we can lift each other up and share our thoughts and feelings and not feel judged like sometimes we do by previous generations. So that's how this whole podcast began. And as I was thinking through what it's provided me over the past year or so, I really started to reflect on this thought of fulfillment that it's provided, how it's fulfilled me and filled me up and really made me feel like I was contributing something to the world. I was putting something of value out there. And that feeling I really have not found other places. It's really come through my own creative endeavors. And that kind of led me to what I was going to talk about today. So I would like to share my approach to finding fulfillment through my creativity and my passion outside of my identity of being a mom or my identity of having this 9-to-5 job that I'm doing on a daily basis that's not really providing that fulfillment that creativity does. Just taking a step back, really, after I had my kids, I started to look inward. I started to look around and I started to ask myself all sorts of philosophical questions like, who am I? What is my purpose in life? What brings me joy? What do I want to accomplish? Like, what do I really want to spend my time on? And I realized that I had no idea who I was. So I started this journey of self discovery after my second child was born because I truly wanted that for myself and for my family. Looking at my babies' faces, I knew I owed it to them to figure out the answers to these questions. And I knew that in order to be the best mom that I could possibly be, I had to start looking inward and figure out what I was trying to accomplish with my life and how I could share that with them. It's funny because, and I don't know if this is a generational thing or not, but I feel like I've heard this script my whole life. You can do anything that you put your mind to. If you work hard, you can achieve anything. It's totally up to you to feel personally and professionally fulfilled. And if you put in the hard work, you can accomplish that. So during this process of self discovery, I realized that I wasn't working toward anything that I wanted to. I have my 9 to 5 job and I'm working for my paycheck and I'm paying my bills and providing for my family and creating some fun here and there with that money. And that's it. I don't know what I'm working toward. It's like I lost that childhood innocence where I was like, I'm going to be a best-selling author when I'm older, or I'm going to be in all of these publications or own my own magazine. I mean, all these things that I dreamed that I was going to do. And I kind of got sucked into the day-to-day corporate grind, just find whatever job I could out of college. And I ended up here thinking, now what? It's not filling me up. It's not fulfilling me. So once I came to that realization, I started to make some changes and I want to share what I did. There's 3 steps that I'm going to share today. And of course, there's a whole lot of nuance and other things that were happening to get me to this point, but that's a more in-depth conversation for another day that I'm always willing to have if you want to reach out. But these 3 steps that I'm going to focus on are really what propelled me forward when it comes to my passion projects and creative endeavors. I do want to say it's not that I'm unhappy in my life. I'm very happy. I love my husband. I love my kids. I do have a good job. It's just that there's something missing. I feel like I was kind of born to create. And when I'm not creating or I'm not writing specifically, I don't feel like I'm living up to my potential or I feel like there's something missing. So if you've been yearning to start something creative, or to take on a passion project of your own, but maybe you don't know where to begin or it seems overwhelming, I think that these 3 steps that I'm going to share are a great place to start and could really help you to move forward because life is too short. Time is of the essence, and it's never too late to start what you want to do with your life and start investing in yourself. So that actually brings me to step number 1, which is I invested in myself. I couldn't get here alone with this podcast. It is very daunting to try to figure out how to get something going when you have no experience. So I needed help first, digging deep and really uncovering what lies beneath the surface of me. I needed help getting curious about me, who I was, what I was craving. Investing in yourself can take a lot of forms. It can look like journaling, taking a personality or values assessment, working with a coach, joining a program, finishing a degree maybe that you've been putting off, or getting a certification that you've always wanted, or even seeking therapy. Like all of those things are a form of investing in yourself, obviously at varying price points. But I really view it as anything that helps you kind of peel back the layers and uncover what lights you up. The key here, I think, is to ask yourself, what have I buried or ignored or been too scared to admit that I actually want? Where have I lost that childhood optimism where I could dream as big as I wanted to, and no dream was too big for me to achieve? I feel like I've run the gamut on all of those things that I've listed at various times of my life. But the first time that I spent a chunk of change on investing myself was when I decided to work with a professional coach from the UK. You know, coaching isn't cheap. And at the time, I didn't know what the outcome would be. So I was truly terrified that I was throwing money away. But at the same time, I knew that something had to change. And of course, my extremely supportive husband, who was like on the ride for all of these ideas and thoughts that I have, he gave me the last bit of encouragement that I really needed to take the plunge. And I'm so glad I did because I feel like that coach, my first coach, she really helped me figure out what my values and desires were that I had buried. I had always wanted to become an author and a blogger. I had always wanted to become a published author in prominent publications. But because my subconscious decided that those things were too difficult to achieve and I wasn't skilled enough, I had kind of like pushed them down and decided that that wasn't for me. I had put them in a category of that could never happen, and I just moved on with my life. But coaching really helped me work through that. And as a result, I got the clarity and the confidence that I needed to create my website and start my blog. And honestly, that was step one for me. And since that first experience with coaching, I have invested in other programs, professional and personal coaching, to help me get through situations when I needed a little bit of support in achieving a particular goal. So I wanted to share two of my favorites, investments that I would do again and again. The first one being Tara Moore's Playing Big course. I know I've spoken about her on the podcast before, but this course aligns with her Playing Big book, which again, I think every woman should read. And it really helps women uncover their life goals and dreams and kind of process the blocks and boundaries that we put up in place to prevent us from achieving them. And it really helps women to go from playing small to playing big. There was a great community that came out of that course for me. And I connected with a few women and we met up after the course ended. We did some virtual calls, and that's kind of where this idea of a podcast first came about. And it was with these women that I was able to share ideas and talk about what my goals were and like what I wanted to achieve and work through, some self-limiting beliefs and what that looks like. And if I didn't have that community, I'm not sure that I would have taken this plunge. So I got to the point where I was like, yes, podcast is something that I want to do. That's the next step. So how do I do that? And that brings me to the second investment that I wanted to mention that I had no regrets about, and that is Jill Carr's Podcast Launch Academy. Her program is a great example of using coaching to help achieve a specific goal. So in the Podcast Launch Academy, she takes you from, soup to nuts on how to launch a podcast, from the content and your goals and keeping a schedule to the technology that you're going to need and buying a microphone and what kind of programs you need to edit and then how you can publish and push out to all the players. I mean, she had it all, and that really gave me the confidence and the basis that I needed to get my podcast up and running. So after I went through that program, I did indeed launch Momming as a Millennial. And again, it was another something that I gravitate towards, is these communities of women. It was another wonderful community of women who were all working toward a similar goal of launching a podcast to promote their business or to get their content out there. And I made a lot of great contacts that I'll have the rest of my life. And I was able to get this podcast up and running with very practical, knowledge and advice. So obviously those are two really great examples. But I will say that not all programs and coaches are created equal. So just be cautious about what you're signing up for. Make sure you do some research and read the client testimonials and make sure that what they're promising to deliver in the course and then what the client testimonials are saying is what you're looking to achieve and get out of the program before you invest any money. But all in all, I think investing in myself has really been the key in creating the successes I've had thus far. So I'm going to try to leave you with some tangible actions that you can take on today or this week and really help you progress if that's what you're looking for. And so for this piece, investing in yourself, I think something that you can do this week is book 1 hour to do something solely for your growth. Whether you are reading a professional development book, which I love my professional development books. You can probably see a couple behind me. Scheduling a therapy session to work through some stuff, taking a free online class on something that you're interested in. If you can find a free webinar that's associated with a course or a coaching program that you're interested in, that's a great way to vet them because you get to see how the facilitator or coach is going to operate and see what kind of content they're providing and if that aligns with what you need. So that could be a really good option. Other things, maybe journal for a little bit or get out in nature. I know a lot of the times for me, getting out in nature or going down to our state park close by, it really helps to ground me and clear my head and help me to get clarity on certain things. So, regardless, take 1 hour this week and focus on investing in yourself, however that looks to you. The next thing, step 2, is I created a path forward. So, as I mentioned, I have some small children. I work a full-time job. I run my household with my husband. So, as you can imagine, and I'm sure you're living it yourself, there is no shortage of things to do. And there's not a lot of free time for me to pursue my passions. So, the only way that I could achieve what I wanted to create my website, to launch my blog, to produce my podcast, to create content consistently and show up on social media, I had to make a plan. Obviously, there's nothing sexy about making a plan, especially when we're talking about these really exciting things like our creative endeavors, but it's necessary in order to accomplish anything, big or small. And while investing in myself helped me to figure out what passions and creative callings I wanted and to help get me started, creating a path forward and making a plan really helped me to achieve what I wanted to achieve. So this is where I moved from kind of dreaming and brainstorming to actually building and executing. This is where I started to take myself a lot more seriously. The key, I think, here, in order to not get overwhelmed, is starting small and practical. For example, when I was starting the process of designing my website and launching my blog, I first did some research to figure out what platform I wanted to use. I ended up with Squarespace. I'm loving it so far. Then I spent a few days brainstorming ideas for my brand and what that was going to look like and what the words meant to me. Did some word association. This was all pre-ChatGPT, y'all. And I landed on Contemplative Mama. And finally, I bought my domain name, contemplativemama.com. So I started chipping away at this very large undertaking with these 3 small tasks that I could complete fairly quickly. It's these small wins that encouraged me to continue moving forward and really helped me to gain momentum. Obviously, coming up with my brand took a little bit of time and thought, but buying the domain name took me 30 seconds. So it's really identifying the things that can get you started, breaking them down into small chunks, and then just taking them one at a time. And starting small could be anything. Maybe it's taking a class or researching technology like I did with my website host, crowdsourcing a logo design, which I also did that, buying a piece of equipment like the microphone that I'm using today for my podcast, or setting aside a weekly block of time to work on your project. I've done this as well. I have 2 time slots, like one in the evening during the week and then one on the morning on the weekend, where I devote to whatever, creating content for my Instagram, coming up with my next podcast episode, editing a podcast episode, getting video clips together, all those things. Those time periods each week, I know I'm going to sit down and focus on something to do with my business. So for this piece, again, trying to provide you with some tangible takeaways, Write down one creative idea that excites you and outline the first 3 baby steps that you could take toward it this month. And again, those could be tiny little things. You can come up with your idea, and then one of the baby steps could be deciding what form that idea is going to take. Is it going to be a blog? Is it going to be a podcast? Are you going to express it in photography? There's so many options. So step 3, I conducted an audit of my time. And this, I think, is my favorite step and also the hardest step. I truly believe that time is our most valuable resource that we have. You just can't get back time spent. That's why when I was talking earlier about investing in yourself and, not only the money that you're putting in, but the time that you're putting in, it's a scary thing because are you going to get out of it what you're hoping for? Is it going to be time well spent, or are you going to look back on it and think, man, that was a real waste of time and I can't get that time back? And when I decided to start playing big and creating and writing for me, I realized that there were a lot of things that I was spending time on that weren't serving me, my family, or my goals for this life. And I had to take a really hard look at that. So I took an inventory of my commitments, my friendships, my routines, pretty much everything that I was doing. I scrutinized my obligations and my relationships, and I considered whether the things that I was spending my time on aligned with my values and vision that I had figured out, that I had worked through with coaching. And I asked myself, what energizes me? What lights me up? What's draining me? What do I dread doing? What did I get guilted into signing up for that I want no part of? Who makes me feel seen and heard when I'm with them? Who makes me feel dismissed or less than? And based on those answers, I started to let things go. That's the part that has not been easy. I've set boundaries and I walked away from some friendships that I've outgrown. Not that anything bad happened or that there's any bad blood. It's just that I've gone in a different direction or I have different thoughts and values than I did before when we were younger and we were closer. I think that's going to happen in life. You're just going to outgrow people or you're going to move in different directions. And that's okay to recognize that and stop spending time with that person. I even changed jobs at one point because the company that I was working for previously had created such a toxic environment with these unrealistic expectations. And the stress of it honestly was like spilling over into my personal life. So I had to walk away from that job. Just like looking at my life holistically, I started to see things in a different light. I also did a thorough calendar audit last year. And let me tell you, that is eye-opening to see everything that you had spent time on the previous year, every event in your calendar, every work meeting, every obligation, every dinner, see all of that stuff categorized and laid out in front of you, truly see like where you're spending your time. Yeah, it was crazy. But from that, it provided so much knowledge and awareness for me. I was able to really be honest with myself and start making some changes that have greatly benefited my mental health and have made room for me to do the things that I love. So something tangible for this step that I think you can do is look at your calendar for the next 2 weeks and cross off one obligation, activity, or meeting that doesn't serve you, that you're not excited about, that you're absolutely dreading, that's not going to bring you joy, and then use that reclaimed time for your creative project instead. And if you ever want to do a full calendar audit, I can walk you through that process. It changed my perception of what it means to show up, for myself and others, and what I thought were things that I had to do in life. I don't know if this is just a part of getting older or what, but I just realized that it's up to me. Like I get to decide what I do with my time, and I'm not going to feel guilty for reclaiming that time for my family and for these things that like really bring me joy. So I hope that this was beneficial. All in all, the message that I really want to leave you with is start today. If you feel like you have a burning desire in your soul to do something creative or different or out of the norm, this is the universe telling you that it's time to take that leap. If you feel like you've been missing out on something or you want something more for your personal or professional growth, this is your permission to go out there and get it. I want to be more than a mom. I never wanted my role as a mom to define me. And I've had conflicting reactions to that statement. I'm not sure if it's an unpopular opinion, but I don't only want to be thought of as a mother. I want to have creative outlets and I want to build a business. I want to write. That's always been my passion. And I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting more. I realized through investing in myself, through coaching and therapy, that I've been carrying around this guilt with me of wanting to be more than a mom. And especially now, I feel like there's so much pressure to be that role and let that role consume you and focus only on your children. And if you're looking for joy or fulfillment outside of your children, that makes you a bad mom. Like these are the thoughts and ideals that I've been carrying around with me for a while. And I think that they've come from people in my life, the world, social media, the patriarchy. I mean, let's call a spade, right? So yeah, I've been working through finding myself and in that realizing that I shouldn't be ashamed of wanting to have something for myself, wanting to be more than a mom. And it's actually beneficial to my children to show them what I can accomplish and what we're all capable in this life. And being a strong woman following your dreams is a really good thing for your children to be able to look up and see. Um, Joy comes from a variety of different places in life, and the joy that I experience through my children and my husband and our family unit is different than the joy that I feel when I'm creating or writing or putting this podcast out there. It's a different type of joy, and I think that that's okay. I don't know a better word to use than fulfillment, but when I started to put my stuff out in the world, my words, whether that's in writing form or through this podcast, it awoke something in me. And I'm thankful that I have this opportunity. And so I want to make sure that everyone has that opportunity because truly, I think it could be life changing for anybody who has a spark of something that they maybe shoved aside or decided that it's not realistic. You have too many other obligations. You have to be a mom first, or whatever the case may be. So I will end the episode on that. If you've been craving more, or if you have been on the fence about pursuing something different, I hope that this episode encourages you to take some sort of action. The 3 things that I shared here today are part of my self-discovery and fulfillment framework that I am building right now. And this framework has made a big difference in my growth and development. And I hope that it can provide you with a starting point. And I will be sharing it soon once I get it into its final stages. So I'm really excited about that. But just to recap again, the 3 steps that I covered today are investing in yourself, however that looks for you. The second thing, create a plan and a path forward. Start breaking down those what seem to be daunting tasks into little bite-sized things and check them off the list to get them done. And then the last one is auditing your time. To me, that was the most beneficial and the hardest thing that I've done in the past 2 years. Take a good look at your calendar, see where there's appointments, obligations, meetings, whatever that you know your heart's not in it, you know is draining you, and see what you can do to reclaim that time for yourself. DM me if you want to dive deeper into any of these topics. If you're interested in learning about the framework that I will be releasing soon, let me know. I'd love to hear it on Instagram, Contemplative Mama 1. Thanks for listening. As always, share with your millennial mom friends, and I'll talk to you next month. Thanks for tuning in to Momming as a Millennial. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a friend or on social. You can find more from me at contemplativemama.com. Until next time.